Let me go back to it could have been dealt with at the time, and because there's another issue in North Canton, which is more citywide.
Right.
Then, of course, you're running in Ward 3. But the point is, in that particular thing, some people say that the abatement of Northridge Place happened without any city official knowing about it, elected official or otherwise. And some of us have a hard time believing that. And not really gilding the lily on that particular situation, but just looking forward. John Snyder gets elected to council. Is there going to be an increased oversight of what's going on in North Canton in terms of abatements, in terms of zoning, in terms of a lot of things? Is there going to be an end to the surprises that North Cantonians experience years down the line? You know, for instance, on abatement, they only became generally known in early or March, I think, of 2016.
Right.
Is, you know, with your experience as a council person, and of course you were there when that happened.
I was there.
Where was the failure then, and how are you going to correct that?
The problem is the present, well, they've now, I think they've expunged the ability to issue CRAs. I think they
Right, they have, I think.
Right. Well, and the problem being, it should have, inside the legislation, a residential abatement laid solely in the authority of the housing officer, which is that time the director of permits and inspections, which is a conflict because you can't issue permits on something that you're going to issue an abatement on. You know, in the zealousness of the administration, as it turned down, things became economically tighter. Money was a little tight back in, you know, those years of 11 and 12. They combined jobs. They eliminated the previous director of permits and inspection, Gene Heminger, died. There was a vacancy there. A man was appointed. Some problems happened. He was let go. So then they took the director of economic development, made him the director of permits, along with his other job. He cannot wear that many hats. It requires too much technical training to do either job. He was gifted as an economic development director, but he had no, just minimal experience in housing. So that went through. In his eagerness to satisfy a resident, when they went in to inquire about a zone classification, he said, I can give you 100% tax abatement. That's residential.
And that came at his initiative?
At his initiative.
And nobody in North Canton government knew about it but him?
Well, at that time.
At that time?
At that time. But I'm sure by the end of the day, somebody knew about it.
Somebody knew.
Somebody
so you agree with those citizens who say that somebody, either in the administration or on council, had to know about that?
Right. Now, I was at that time, when it was inquired upon, in 14, because I don't think it was issued till about 15 or 16, I was a president of council. And I did not hear it from the housing officer. I heard it from the developer told me that and that's how I know how it happened. And the particular...
What timetable wise, when was that?
That was within, that would have been within 30 days of being offered the abatement. The amount, I honestly did not know at that time was that high. I mean, and the reason I know, that's a historical pattern. The people at Acme Click did some development. He went up there and offered them an abatement. It was a small amount of money, $6,000, but
right.
He offered to them. They accepted. One of the civic activists in the community raised Cain about it. The man who owns Acme came to council and rescinded it. He said, I don't need this aggravation.
Some residents of North Canton, the position of law director has been a focus. And of course, I'm sure you're aware of what the criticisms are. And you were part of the decision to make him law director.
I was.
Are these observations about how he handles himself merited or unmerited in your perspective?
Well, it's a little of both. The observations and the feeling of some of the citizenry is merited. It's become personal on both sides. Here's the situation. The law director, by charter, appointed by council, is to be the law director and advisor on legal matters to the mayor and to council. That's his or her job. His or her job is not to run the meetings or to decide protocol or Robert's rules during the meeting.
Which some people who criticize him, that's the heart of their complaint.
And I understand that, and they're right. That's up to the president of council to control the meeting. First of all, I was at a meeting, it was a committee meeting on Monday evening. I've been attending meetings, and I watched this in a committee meeting. No public input, which should change. Every meeting should have public input. And
Even
council of the whole should have.
Okay.
What's going to take 20 minutes of my life to listen to 4 residents who might have a good idea or who have a complaint or a praise? It's well worth it.
So you say John Snyder, as council person, is going to be pushing for more public access
Absolutely.
and dialogue with
Absolutely.
council while the meetings occur.
Absolutely. What good is it to go ahead and go through a whole council of the whole meeting, the following week rubber stamp it with a 6-0 vote, and a citizen's going to stand up at the regular council meeting when the legislation has already been drafted? You know, I mean, that's like closing the door after the horse ran away. You know, that's the way I look at it anyway. So consequently, give them 5, if you want to, I think you need more than 5 minutes, but give them 5 minutes apiece to put some input. And that law director's job, unfortunately, it just keeps gaining. It's like moss, a rolling stone. No one's stopping him, so he just assumes more and more power because no one's doing the work. They're sitting there and say, they look to him for the answer, the council members. I mean, you cannot, that's not his job, but it's usurped over to him because somebody wasn't doing it.
Well, would you, in the midst of a council meeting, be willing to admonish a law director, or would you take a different tack and do it in private?
Well, depending, if it continues the way it's been, I would rise to the president for a privileged question. I'm going to say, sir, this is a committee meeting. Now, that's the other problem. We don't have structured committees. Everybody's on the committee now. There's not 3 members of the committee. For years, we had 3 members of each committee, a chairman, vice chairman, and a member.
So you want to go back to that?
I want to go back because it'll be discussed in the committee, then open to the whole council.
Okay.
There's more decorum there. When you got everybody talking at the same time, we're not going to accomplish anything.
Okay.
You know, and then also what it causes is that particular committee to do their homework. Right now, half of them don't do their homework, Martin, because they know somebody else did it, so they're going to say it. So yeah, I think you're right on that. They don't do their homework because they don't have to. There's nobody going to hold their feet to the fire. But if you've got 3 members and we're going to spend $3 million on paving a street and with curb and gutter, we're going to talk about it. And I'm going to call on you and say, well, what do you say, Mr. Chairman? What are we going to do? Well, same as this zoning. You defer to the particular councilman of the ward and you defer to the chairman of the committee. If they're against it, it doesn't go any further.
But is there ever going to be a scenario where John Snyder would be willing to do a very difficult thing and say, Mr. Law Director, you're out of bounds?
I don't think that's difficult to do. If he's directing his answers to members of the audience, which he has no right to do by charter or by decorum, yes, I'd say, sir, you're out of order. Mr. President, the law director's out of order. Now, if I turn to him and say, Mr. Law Director, I want an opinion on this, first of all, the law directors I served with previously normally would not give you an opinion that night. They're not foolish. They're not going to fly out. You know yourself.
But that happens regularly
Can't
now.
do that.
Right.
Now, what good is that opinion? If I ask you an opinion as a man of the bar yourself, you're going to say, I'll get back to you. You're going to go research it. You're not going to tell me something off the top of your head. Unless I say, can I steal this or something, then that's pretty, no, you don't do that. You know, I'll get back to you. You know, and if it was important, I need it right then. He can go to the bank, he's got a computer, he's got that Lexus and other things. He can find the answer for me, or she can right away. We went ahead and put a full-time law director in there. And now what's happened is they've bombarded that man with so much work, and his authority has grown with the work. You know, he doesn't work at the administration, doesn't work at the council, because no one else is doing it. They're just watching it.
So with John Snyder on council, North Canton can look for some restructuring of the relationship between council and the law director?
I believe so. His job is to advise me and the members of council and administration on legalities. His job is not to make policy or to vote on ordinances. His opinion on an ordinance, if it doesn't involve the scope of the law, is inconsequential. That's not his position.